Hi, my name is André Rosenberg Simões, and today I'm going to talk about the dynamic impact of farm-level technology adoption on the Brazilian dairy supply chain. This work was developed during my PhD under the supervising of Dr. Charles Nicholson, and here are some credentials for my speaking today. I am an animal scientist with master and PhD in applied economics from Federal University of Viçosa, and I'm professor at Mato Grosso do Sul State University in Brazil, and I have more than 20 years dedicated to study the Brazilian dairy supply chain. So let's start with some schedule for today. What we are going to talk about today, we are going to talk about the structure of the Brazilian milk production. We are focused on a simulation model developed in my PhD, and what were the main results that we found, and some concluding remarks. So, what is the main characteristics of the Brazilian milk production? So, Brazil is the fourth world larger milk producer in the world, behind only China, India, US, and China, with 36 billion liters per year, and according to FAO 2021. And despite this position, we have a lot of space, or Brazil still have some gains in terms of cows yield, and we have some numbers here to compare Brazil with other important countries. For example, in the United States, each cow produces 10,000 liters per year, and Germany 80,000, New Zealand 4,000, and Brazil 2.2 thousand liters per year. Here I have the same information in gallons, if you think it's better to understand what I'm saying. And so these numbers indicated to us that we still have space to increase our production based on our herd. Here we have, I forgot to mention that here we have the cow numbers and total milk production in this year, that was 2021, according to FAO again. So Brazil still have space to increase its production and have some opportunities to make the supply chain more efficient. Here are some spatial distribution of milk production over the years. We have 1990s, the 90s until 2021, according to agriculture census and other researchers in Brazil, informal research in Brazil, in terms of production, cow numbers, and cow yield. And we can say that this area here, let me reduce myself here a bit to make it clear for you. Okay, I think it's okay now. So this area here concentrated the most productive cows, and that is south of Brazil, and Minas Gerais state is another area, important area. And here in terms of production and cow numbers. Okay, just to have a glimpse about where the milk production is important in Brazil. So let's move forward. So in terms of number of dairy farms in Brazil, we observe basically an international or global trend about the numbers of farms. We have the agriculture census from 1996, 2006, and 2017. That was our last census. And we can say that across the year, the number of farms has been reduced in about 20% every 10 years. That's an important or significant problem because the dairy supply chain is important for the economy in Brazil. And the model the model we use to simulate in some ways try to replicate this situation here. We will see later in the presentation. So observing the main variables that we have looked at before, milk production, cows, and cows yield, we can see that milk production has increased from 1996 to 2014, and then it has leveled at about 36 billion liters per year in this level here. And we can see that this milk production was increased because the cow numbers has increased until 2008, 2009, and then cows yield started to make a difference here, and we can see something like exponential growth here of the cows yield, and then leveled again, still leveled too, and the cow numbers has reduced since 2014. So the thing is that we have a stable number to milk produced, and the cow numbers is lower than we have in the beginning or in the middle of the 1990s, and it means that each cow produced more milk. So that's the situation today, 2021. And here's another way to view this situation, now looking for some size of farms. And so we have here from 0 to 200 liters per day, or it means 52 gallons per day. So 0 to 2000, 2000 to 0 to 200, 200 to 1000, 1000 to 2000, and over than 2000 liters per day. And in this first picture here, we have the percentage of number of farms. So we can see that the large majority of our farms in 2017 was concentrated from until up to 200 liters per day. And we can see, comparing this bar here with this other bar here, that the same farm size here represents only 45% of milk production. And when we look to 2023, this same farm size here, up to 200 liters, it has reduced to 60% of the total farms, and the total milk production has substantially reduced to 11% of the total milk production. And on the other hand, we have that this top area here, top farms here, that has more milk production per day. They produced around 30 or 40% of the milk, and then in 2000 they produced, sorry about that, they produced 6%. Oh my god, this extract here, these farms that produce more milks per day, represents 6% in 2017. Then in 2023 it increased in this proportion here, around 30%. And when we look to production, these farms produced around 40% in 2017, and then in 2023 it increased for over 9% of the milk production with some of these areas here. So that's that's an important change that happened in Brazil, that structural change that is currently happening in Brazil, and the farmers are concerned about that because many of small farms are exiting or leaving the activity, and that is a kind of social problem that we have to address. So when we talk about structural change in Brazil, I have to say that milk production is changing in which way? How milk production is changing? Just a second here. Okay, let me increase it myself a bit. You can see me better. Okay, and basically we have a pasture-based system in Brazil with crossbreeding cows, and the most important breed from crossbreeding cows in Brazil are Girolando. This type of cows here are Girolando. Here we have some Jersey, and here some Holstein, maybe crossbreed also. And so the pasture-based is changing to more intensified systems with adoption of compost-bedded packed barns, and this is a kind of very recent fad or very recent trend in Brazil that farmers are increasing their genetic potential. They're adopting this kind of barns here, and consequently they are increasing their genetic potential. They have to make higher investments in barns and machinery, and they have to improve the labor intensification and specialization, increase the concentrate ratio to cows, and obviously they have less pasture dependency and lower weather dependency on this type of milk production system here. And that's it. That's part of the context what has happening in Brazil in the last, I would say, the last decade. And I would say that in future we will have more compost-bedded packet barns, more confined systems than pasture-based systems in Brazil. That's the opportunity to increase our productivity and be a more efficient and, unfortunately, more dependent from corn and soybeans. That's the basic components of the concentrated ration. If in general lines, I would say that basically we have 60% of corn and 40% of soybean to mix and to formulate this concentrated ration here to feed these cows in barns here, confined systems. Okay. I think that's the most important thing that is happening in milk production system in Brazil nowadays. So this is a informal statistic, not unofficial statistic about the trend in Brazil of cows in barns. So we have a number of farms with compost-bedded barns among the top 100 milk producers in Brazil. 2016, it was 13% of the farms of this top 100 farms, and now is in 2021 it increased to 29% of the farms use compost bedded barns. So that's another confirmation of this structural change that we are observing in the milk production in Brazil. So the simulation model I'm going to present now is part of this paper that was published. I am the first author here, and Dr. Charles Nicholson is the second author here, along with Dr. Andrew Novakovic and Roberto Protil. That Roberto Protil was my advisor in Brazil, and Chuck Nicholson my advisor at Cornell at that moment. And I think we did a good job here, and this paper is very useful for us to understand many things that we are observing and things that we expect to happen in the future, assessing counterfactual scenarios. So let's take a look at what we have found here in this paper, and this paper is available in the review. We can follow this identification here to find this paper, okay, and it's open access. You can read this. So what was the justification? Technology adoption is almost seen as a positive action because generally improve the economic efficiency. However, technology adoption must be assessed not only in terms of individual benefits, but also considering impacts on the market conditions. Farmers observed market signals to adjust their production system. And the problem is that the response that farmers have from this from market occurs with delays that create endogenous conditions to price oscillations. And the nature of these delays are biological delays, administrative and decision-making delays, measurement, reporting, and perception delays. That's what causes some complexity on the results that we are going to see next slides. So the objective is to assess the impact of dynamics, impact of scaled-up technology adopted by Brazilian dairy farms on aggregated market outcomes and farm-level profitability by farm size categories. So when we talk about technology improvement, we are not focused in only one thing that farmers can change, but pretty much like a technological package that farmers adopt to make it more efficient. So we simulate things like concentrated rate per cow, milk production per cow, genetic composition, production seasonality, labor efficiency, production costs related to all parameters above, okay? And we measure that in some key performance indicators like time to win, cows in milk over total cows, lactation period, calving interval, heifer fraction born, and area usage. So our model did this transition, not only focused, for example, genetics or feed, but all these things together in something like technological package. So we use a system dynamics model to do this, and the core of the system dynamics states that the problem must be assessed in a dynamic hypothesis with delays and feedback loops. And the system dynamics is built in using two basic tools that are causal loop diagrams and the stock and flow structure. And causal loops diagrams are useful to communicate an idea in a mental model. It's a qualitative tool. And stock and flow structure is a quantitative tool that is composed by a structure of differential equations and we can simulate the mental model numerically here and find some graphics solution and create scenarios. I think I will skip to the last part of this sequence here, and I use some pencil here. First we have, this is our mental model, so we have farm profitability that affect the decision of have more cows in herd, and cows affect the level of milk production, and milk production turn back to affect profitability, and profitability turn to affect cow numbers. This is our first loop that we are calling scale reinforcing feedback. The second loop here, I would say that farm profitability also affects milk production per cow. Milk production per cow affects, here we have climate conditions, and we have, for example, feed strategies here, increasing milk production. If farmers have more money, they can feed better their cows, that will increase their milk production, that turn to affect farm profitability. That's the second reinforcing loop here that we are calling efficiency reinforcing feedback. And we have more elements here. For example, if we increase milk production, we will increase the production of dairy products. We will increase the dairy products inventories. See if we have more products in the inventory, we will lower the price paid to farmers, and if we have lower price to farmers, we have lower profitability that will back to affect milk production. And these orange arrows here represent a balancing feedback that we are named supply balancing feedback. And finally, we have the last feedback loop here, that if we have higher levels of inventories here of dairy products, we will have a lower price of dairy products, so we will increase the demand. If we increase the demand, we will lower the level of inventories. If we lower the level of inventories, we will increase farm profitability, and the loops are closed again, and we have a completed, connected, and endogenous model here. And what we are trying to do is to assess what would be the impact of, sorry about that here, what would be the impact of farms adopting technology if we force farms to use technology. We will affect milk production per cow, and consequently we will affect all the systems, and it will back to affect farm profitability and milk production per cow. So this is kind of exogenous impact on milk supply chain, and we can measure what will be this impact. Okay, hope it's that clear for you. You can take a look at more carefully to this picture here later, and of course Dr. Chuck Nicholson will explain it much better than me. But if you have questions, you can ask him, and he can report these questions to me if he thinks makes sense. Or I will leave my email at the end. We can chat and we can exchange some information about this model here. But let's move forward, and let's see that we transform this type of mental model in a kind of differential equations where stocks represented for this by this box here means the stocks, and the flows that works as inputs and outputs from these stocks that increase the level of the stocks or decrease the level of stocks are the differentials from these equation systems, and we have lots of parameters that controls these flows, inflows and outflows here. So we have 5 modules in this full model. The models are milk production, herd aging chain, cool cow prices, farm profitability, farm milk price, and supply-demand balance. The next sequence of slides that I'm going to show you here are some details of these 5 modules here. And please don't make nervous or anxious to understand everything that will be popped up in the screen next slides, because it's kind of complicated, but I will focus in what are the most important variables to understand the simulation. Okay, so let's move this. For example, this is the herd. We have a herd aging chain here that calves moves to heifer stocks and heifer stocks move to cow stocks, and we have a controlling here of the herd size by the cow rate. And we have, for example, the net farm operation income affecting the number of cows in this herd. We adjust the number of cows based on profitability, and we have profitability as an input here in this picture that is coming from another level of the model. We are in the level of herd aging chain, and we have also here that indicators that I mentioned before, and we gave some numbers, some initial numbers to these indicators here, and we made simulations on these numbers and tried to understand what would happen in the herd aging chain and consequently in milk production, because we have more cows, we have more milk production, of course, or less cow, less milk production. And this is the first part of the model. Okay. Next, we have an important component here that's, for example, ration price, that's the exogenous variable. We have other feed costs. We have we have units operation per liters of milk that farmers has been using for their cows. So we have feed cost per liter. We have the total feed cost. Feed cost is one of the major costs of the operational effective cost. Operational effective cost is part of the equation of net farm operation income. So we have milk production per farm here, and the value of milk here, milk price, I would say milk price here, that these both together compose the net farm operation income. So milk production times milk price less operational effective cost is the net farm operation income. That was one of the variables that affect the cow numbers on the herd aging chain, if you remember well. So let's move forward here. Let's see the next one. We have here the milk production per cow now, and we have also again farm milk price over feed cost per liter, and we have, for example, here the fraction of genetic potential expressed. We have the seasonality component here, and we have modified the seasonality pattern after the modification of the systems. For example, if farmers use compost bedded packed barns, we reduce seasonality, for example. It is inside our model. And what else we can highlight here? So we have, for example, the cow numbers is coming from another view, and if you have the cow numbers, if you have the milk production per cow, we have the total milk production per farm, and this goes to another place in this complex model here. Let's turn things more simple for you here, and let's move forward. Here's it's less important, but we have the cow cool price, so that's important thing in the model, but not so relevant for us now. We have the farm size, we have the farm milk price structure, how milk price is calculated in the model. And let's see what else we have here. Oops. Okay, so here we have an important component, that's inventory of dairy processors, that is affected by milk production, and that is affected also by sales that came from demand on Brazilian demand, Brazilian milk production, inventories. So we have an important variable here, that's inventory coverage, processors price, I mean wholesale prices, and everything is connected in these modules here. Okay. Finally, we have, that's one important thing that I was forgetting to mention, that we are capable to do flight simulators in this system dynamics tool. So each square here of this type, each square of this are one type of adjustment or modification we can do in the system and observe what happened with the variables of interest. So if we change how fast the farmer adopt technology, we can see how the number of cows in the system can change, and this is totally dynamic, so we can see the movements of these curves here in a very fun way to do this. So let's go. What were the scenarios we created? We created 6 scenarios. Okay, I'm not going to detail a lot about these scenarios, but we have, for example, small farms and large farms adopting technology in a rate of transition in a slow, medium, and fast rate. So we have small farms adopting slow, medium, and fast rate. We have large farms adopting in slow, medium, and fast rate. So that's why we have 6 scenarios of simulation. And let's see what happens with these simulations. And keep in mind that when we are talking about rate of transition, we are talking about that technology set that we have explained before, about how farmers will change their milk production system, for example, a pasture-based system to a more confined system, for example, using compost bed pack barns, and how fast they do this, and what would be the impact on market. Okay, that's the core of the simulation model we did here. So what were the main results? I'm not going to be extensively discussing these results here, but I'll give you some important intuition about what we have found. And okay, so first variable that we have to observe, and one of the most important, is the aggregated average milk price in Brazil. So each line, colored line here, we have one scenarios. For example, small farms in a slow pace, small farms in a medium pace, small farms in a fast pace, and larger, and in slow, medium, and fast. and the dynamic impact of this transition in farm price. So the blue line is the baseline or the observed price in Brazil, and the other lines are the impact on prices of these technological changes. And this is another variable that we observed, that's average milk production in Brazil. So blue line is the observed milk production, and we can see that all the scenarios, for example, small farms adopting technology, we don't have a substantial change in the patterns of milk production, but when we access the the larger farmers adopting technology, we can see that the level of the milk production has moved to an upward trend here. That's the important outcome, saying that if small farms change their technology, they were not capable to change the level that we have been observed, but with larger farms do that, they were able to change the stabilized level that we have here. I don't know if I've made myself clear, but this is an important finding here. Okay, cow numbers. We can see that the model were capable to capture the pattern of cow numbers over the years, and we can see that the blue line again is the observed number of cows, and interesting see that when small farmers adopt technology in different rates, the cow numbers decline, and when we have larger farmers adopting technology, we can also change this pattern, okay, from the observed. But this happens only when they adopt technology in a medium or in a fast rate. In a slow rate, they follow the same trend here. Okay, that's interesting thing to observe. And of course, all this modification here are related to the, for example, one of the most important component of the system, that is the feed system. Okay, Chuck asked me to highlight this importance of this feed system, and I think the most interesting thing here is that if we change the feed system, that seems to be an important thing, but for the market, what would be the real importance of the changing of feed system to the whole market, or to variables like farm prices or total cow numbers? That's a very hard question to answer if you don't have a kind of model like this, okay? Let me clear that screen, okay. And here are the distributional effect of technology adoption in milk production. I think I changed the color of this. Oops. Okay, let me see if okay. This pencil here is tricky, okay. So we have the baseline, we have all 6 scenarios here for percentage of milk production in Brazil. We have 100% here, and we can see that when the blue squares here, the blue bars here, okay, represent the small farms adopting technology in a slow, medium, fast rate, and in scenarios of small farms using. And this next 3 here, we have the effect of larger farms using technology. Let me be more clear here. I'll erase here. Okay, so let's see. The first 3 scenarios are small farms using technology. The last 3 scenarios are larger farms using technology. So we can see that when small farms use technology, they are able to increase their share of market, okay, the blue bars are increasing. But when we observe the effect of larger farms adopting technology, we can see that they put much more pressure on the small farms, and that's an important thing, that small farms stays with the lower percentage of milk production in Brazil, and larger farms increase their production in a higher degree than if small farms increase. You can see that small farms are not able to push the larger farms as the larger farms push the small farms here. Okay, and this is the same simulation we did for the income. So we can see that when larger farms adopt technology, they are able to increase their income in a very higher way, much higher than when small farms. So small farms using technology are the blue bars here. And we can see that the effect of the blue bars here is compared with the effect of green bars are very different. So I would say that larger farms are making pressure on the small farmers. So small farms that do not adopt technology this number here. So the worst situation in Brazil, and I would say globally, is to be a small farm not using technology. And if you are a small farm using technology, you still have some space to increase and be still in the market. And compared with larger farms, it's not so hard to understand that this kind of pressure, I mean, of the one group of technology makes on in the other group when the first one adopt technology and the other one don't. Okay. So let's go concluding remarks about all these things that I did here. I like to read this concluding remarks to be more clear for you. And technology adoption increase milk production and lower milk and dairy products price, providing benefits to adopting farm and consumers. That's one thing that I didn't mention, but we found in our simulation. Faster adoption rates result in lower milk price and would offset many of the benefits of increased efficiency at the farm level. Technology adoption increased the farm profitability of adopters, but reduces profitability of non-adopters and makes negative net farm operation income more frequent in the systems. Okay, this is another thing that I didn't mention before, but was another conclusion of our full work that we have. You can access the paper published paper. Technology adoption implied changes in the dairy production sector. I mean, concentration of milk production on large and more efficient farms and exit of small farms. And non-adoption, whether large or small farm, can experience lower incomes, smaller production, and income shares when other farms adopt. And underlying causal structure of farm profitability and herd managed decisions are enough to explain the potential market exclusion of non-adopting farms, especially small non-adopting farms. Another major result is that technology adoption can affect variation farm profitability, but differs by farm size and technology adoption scenarios. And regardless the scenarios of farm adoption decreases the proportion of negative of net farm operation income values. And I think, I don't know if I have yes, I have one last slide here. And benefits of farm level technology adoption occur to supply chain entities other than farm, notably processors, retailers, and consumers. And an ex-ante impact assessment through dynamic simulations of market outcomes are a powerful tool to anticipate welfare effects and can be used more proactively in designing and promotion of productivity enhancing technology. I hope you have understand everything I said here. So if you have questions, you can do to Dr. Chuck Nicholson and to me also through my email. I will let my email here for a future contact, and please make free to contact me anytime you want. So thank you for your patience, thank you for your attention, and see you next time.